So today we're going to focus on the air signs. Let's get into it. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Charlie Starr, and today we're going to talk about air signs. The air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. What makes the air signs special? Well, air signs are all about the cerebral activities of the mind and communication, language, and how we interact with other people. So air signs in general are a very social sign. They're also a very intelligent sign because the intelligence of the mind, at least in the traditional sense of intelligence, is a mental capacity, right? So I love my air signs. I'm a fire sign, and so fire and air are really energized by interacting together. And this can make air signs a lot of fun because while fire is our passion and our driving force, I feel like the air signs kind of give us something to live for, if that makes sense. Like, what's the fun of being a passionate, intense person if you don't have somebody to play that off of, to bounce that energy back and forth with? So I wanted to make a video about the air signs because I had requested to make a video about the water signs, and I thought, like, hello, I can't leave the other signs out. I got to do a video about each one of you guys. I really don't want to recycle too much information that you guys can find somewhere else. So I'm trying to find the balance there with, like, do I go over the fundamentals of a sign with you guys, or should I just share my unique perspective with the sign? So I'm going to try and do a little bit of both because I don't want to just be giving you the same content that you just watched 4 other videos about the same sign give you. I don't want to be redundant. I don't want to recycle content, but I will just really quick kind of give you the highlights and the important elements of the sign. So let's start with Gemini. Okay, so Gemini, hey, you guys are, well, real quick, I should say that anybody who is a Gemini, right, their sun is in Gemini, that's what it means. You're more than just this one sign. And this goes for all of the signs that I'm talking about, because you have an entire birth chart that has all these different planets and probably a variety of different signs. I've never seen somebody that had all of their planets in one sign. That would be pretty crazy. So you guys are a combination of these different things, and depending on which planet is in which sign and what house that it's in, that's going to have an impact how they're aspecting each other, and also your own individual choice and who you choose to be and how you choose to express yourself. These are all going to influence who you are. So when I'm talking about a sign and I use, when I talk about the sign and I act as though the sign is a person, I'm talking about a hypothetical person who is just embodying that one sign. But do understand that you are so much more complex than just that one example. I'm just using the example of that sign being a person because I am trying to give you the essence of that sign so that you can understand it within the context that, is in your chart, say, for example, or somebody else's. So with that being said, Gemini is the 3rd month of spring, and so it's a mutable sign. What that means is every single season, spring, summer, fall, winter, has 3 months to it. And the 3 months are described as having 3 different modalities. And the modality is a quality of energy that's based on what part of the season it is. So cardinal is going to be an energy that increases and becomes more of itself over time. That's going to be the first of the season. The middle is going to be fixed because it's the same from the beginning into the end. And then mutable, which is what Gemini is a sign that is actually changing from one season to the next season. So it's a very flexible, adaptable, and changing sign. So when you have a flexible, adaptable, changing air sign, what you end up with is a lot of quick thoughts moving around. There's this is the sign of conversation. This is the sign of media. This is the sign of language. This is the sign of creative writing. This is the sign of coding. This is the sign of comedy. This is the sign of chit chat. This is the, I mean, this is a fun energy because it's just very quick, back and forth, all over the place, right? So to be a Gemini, you guys have a skill. Generally, that you guys have this skill, but it can also feel very overwhelming because here's the skill. It's like you have all this incoming information that's coming from all these places that can feel very out of left field because imagine like the aperture of a camera, and some of the signs are very like focused on what's coming in, right? This would be like the cardinal signs, and the fixed signs have a little bit more of a narrow lens to their incoming information and the things that they think are important to pay attention to. Gemini has a very wide aperture where you can pay attention to so many different things at once. So having like, say, like a Gemini rising, for example, you're going to notice so many things in your environment and you're going to be able to hear everything. So like when I'm in an environment, I'm like fixed. I'm a fixed, like I have a lot of fixed planets, like fixed placements in my chart, and I'm very narrow focused. So I automatically tune out a lot of like background noise. Like when I'm filming these videos, I don't notice the background noise. It has to be like my partner coming in and saying like, oh, like the fan was really loud there or something like that, because I'm just not even going to notice. Well, my partner is Mercury is their chart ruler. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini as well. This is the mind. This is the air. This is the cerebral function. This is extremely versatile energy. So you guys have all this incoming information, but then what you have the ability to do is take this information and put it where it belongs. Take that information and put it where that belongs. So it's like you're constantly categorizing and organizing this information, and it's a very it's an energy that's very focused on learning, and a lot of Geminis can have like a love of learning about different topics, different activities, different interests. Gemini can have a lot of different interests and really play around with a lot of different things, and that can be really cool because it's the mind is going in so many different directions. You can kind of be a little bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, depending on what the rest of your chart looks like. But that's the energy here with Gemini, is multi-focused. Why I say this can be a little bit of Achilles' heel is because when you have Gemini, say, like as your rising sign, so that's really talking about your mental processes, but anywhere that you have major Gemini placements, yes, you're good at language. I've seen linguists, like Gemini linguists. I've seen Gemini web page designers. I've seen Gemini poets. These, you're really good with language, but what am I trying to say? With all this incoming information, it can be very overwhelming at times. And also the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, which are ruled by the element of air, Mercury, Gemini, and Mercury also rules Virgo. When you have an excess of stimulation in your central nervous system, this can impact your energy and your body, so that there's a stimulation of cortisol in your body that creates a stress response. And it's like you're always on, always, always, always on, always on. And so it can feel like it can become you can easily become overstimulated and feel very raw. So that's one thing that I think is so important to understand about Gemini, is that sometimes they can become very nervous. And there's something about a Gemini energy that is a little bit nervous to begin with, but it's not necessarily that they're experiencing nervousness. Sometimes I've noticed that people feel a nervous energy around Gemini, but it's not actually Gemini is feeling nervous. It's other people are feeling nervous because they're not used to such a fast energy, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see. What else? I have heard Gemini people talk about the sign for Gemini, which is the twins, and talk about their inner dialogue and how they have the evil twin and the good twin. So this is kind of like the angel and the devil sitting on the shoulder. But I don't think it's necessarily like always a bad voice and a good voice, but it's just conversation that's constantly going on inside of the Gemini person. So you have like, oh, this, and this person's like, oh, well, what about that? Well, what about this? Da 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 da. It's like there's these little voices, this little whispering inside of the Gemini, like kind of giving them all these different perspectives. So some of the things that Gemini is good at is looking at things from different perspectives, right? Because it's a flexible mind. So you guys are pretty open-minded, and your partner sign is Sagittarius. So the partner sign is just the sign that's across the wheel from your sign. For air, this is always fire, vice versa. For water, this is always earth. So your fire sign that's across the way is Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is a fire sign that is also mutable. So they're also kind of flexible and can change focus on where their energy is being directed. But Sagittarius does have one thing that is super important to them, which is the big picture, because it's ruled by Jupiter, which is about expansion and growth and, you know, long distance travel and foreigners and exotic experiences and living life like larger than anybody else. Like, have you heard of like FOMO, fear of missing out? This is like Sagittarius, and also Sagittarius is considered the sign of God. So they are the truth seekers, and they want to understand the unfathomable mysteries of the universe. And they can get really, really deep into like these higher realms of thought and understanding. So if you have Sagittarius as understanding, Gemini is the communication of that understanding. So this is kind of getting into a little bit about Gemini energy that's not even necessarily like a person that's a Gemini, but just understanding what Gemini's capacity is like in the world versus Sagittarius. So if you understand something really, really well, deeply, complexly, at a certain point, it transcends language, and there's this knowing that you have about something. You understand the ins and outs of a particular situation or whatever it is that you have full, deep knowing and understanding about. So then when you go and try to share that information with somebody else, now you're in the realm of Gemini. This is really challenging. I'm a Jupiter ruled person, and so I think in like these big abstract concepts, this deep understanding of things, and it's so hard for me to like learn how to like package that up and make it a shareable piece of information for you guys, right? Because in order to transfer information, you have to make it light. If you think of air, it's like light, it's fast, and so you need to like become light, and in becoming light, in choosing words to like describe something that's complex, you're going to sort of miss the mark. There's things that are going to be lost along the way when you're trying to communicate that information to somebody else. And so that's one thing that is, you know, the skill of switching from Gemini to Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the teacher. So Sagittarius ultimately needs Gemini skills, right? And like Gemini also needs Sagittarius skills, because in order to communicate something, you have to be able to like really deeply understand it first before you understand what it is that you're trying to communicate. So these signs really need each other, and these signs, no matter what your placements are going to be relevant, more or less relevant to your own life, because we all seek to share our information. If you are heavy on Sagittarius energy, I guarantee you, you're going to want to share that information with somebody at some time. And so you got to learn from the Gemini. Also, Gemini tend to be a little bit more lighthearted and to like enjoy life more than Sagittarius, which can be like so serious. So that's another thing that we can learn from the Gemini energy. Okay, Libra. Libra is the second air sign in the zodiac wheel, and it is the sign of balance. So I'm sure you guys have seen the Libra scales. The scales for Gemini, it's the twins, is like the image, the sign, the totem, I guess. For Libra, it's the scales. And this plays out in like a number of different ways, right? Because it's kind of weird to think of like, I don't know, I didn't immediately make the connection with Libra between like justice and relationships, and also beauty. Like these are three Libra territories that I didn't immediately see the connection to, but it's actually all about balancing a polarity. So if you have an extreme over here and you have an extreme over here, these things need to be balanced. That's kind of how opposites attract, because if you have somebody who's extreme over here, then the Libra quality, which Libra is ruled by Venus, the goddess of beauty and love and relationships and resources and attraction, is going to position itself over here and bring the person or the people ideally into balance. This is why we're attracted to opposites. We're attracted to people that are different than us, because there's an innate desire for us to balance ourselves. Like, oh, you have something that I don't have, I need that. You know, not in like a I'm going to use you way, but in like we could work together really well because we offer different things. So the other thing is that because it's a polarity, this is not like a group activity energy. Like this is an A-B conversation, so see your way out. You're not gonna have like a group chat with Libra energy. Libra energy is one-on-one. It's a polarity. There's this. There's two things in the conversation, you and me. It's cardinal sign, which means it's growing, it's focused in one direction. And Libra in a relationship focuses that attention on their partner. And they should get that same attention back at them, right? So this is also, one thing I've noticed is that Libra, even though Taurus is also ruled by Venus, Libra really gets the glamour. You guys are like really glamorous people, like beautiful people. How does beauty come into it? Well, science has shown us that what we find attractive as humans is symmetry, so balance, right? Like if this eyebrow is significantly different than this eyebrow, and this eye is different than this eye, then we're not going to find that person's face as attractive as if their eyes are like exactly the same. So when there's symmetry within a person, we find that attractive. When there's symmetry? Yeah, symmetry. When they're symmetrical with art, with architecture, this is what we find attractive because it's balanced. So this is how, the scales have to do with beauty. And then justice, I feel like that one's pretty easy to understand, the scales, because like Libra wants to see the scales be tipped. Like if you did something bad, you should have like the appropriate consequences for that, and vice versa. Like I would like to point out that in the courtroom, you don't have three different cases being made. You have like a defendant and the accused, or is that the same? I don't know, but it's just like you have the person who's like doing the accusing and you have the person who's like defending themselves, right? So there's like two parties involved. And I have seen Libras be both judges and lawyers. So Libra is an air sign. So this is about communication. So with the things that Libra is really passionate about, I'm not going to say there aren't right-leaning Libras, and there probably are, and they probably feel very passionately in the other direction. But in my experience, marriage equality is probably like the most Libra thing I could think of, because it's equality and it's marriage, it's the relationship. So when a Libra gets passionate about something like this, then they are going to want to use their voice, because Libra is an air sign, in order to bring balance. So because Libra is trying to bring balance and harmony and justice and attraction, like Libra innately wants to like bring together. This is an action of Venus, which is attraction. It's bringing together. They're not wanting to separate. They're not wanting to cause a fight. This affects how Libra interacts with people. And this is something that I've really, really noticed about Libra, like a lot in my interactions with Libra, is that I'll talk to a Libra and I feel like what they're telling me is something that's true. I don't feel like they're being dishonest, but I feel like there's like half of the conversation that's happening in their head that I'm not privy to. They're not sharing that information with me a lot of the time. And I think that it's because, like, you know, unless you are in like a close relationship with a Libra where they know you well and they know what they can and cannot like safely talk about, I think there's a little bit of a barrier with Libra with amongst people they don't know that well, because they don't know what they could say that is going to cause you to have like a negative reaction. And what they're trying to do is like build a connection, like a common connection with you. So that's why sometimes I feel like when I'm talking to a Libra that I don't know very well, I'm like, what is it that you're not telling me? What is it, your opinion, that you're not saying? So, okay, so Libra, like I said, they're very beautiful people. Venus rules Taurus, and Taurus has to do with the natural world. So imagine, like, Venus has two signs. And imagine if you were a goddess and you had two different houses, you would probably kind of change them, like make them different to sort of like be able to celebrate and like be in the thing that you really like over here, and then this other interest that you have be over here. So with Taurus, it's very natural. It's all about like the plants and the resources and the food. So imagine when you walk into Taurus's home, it's like it's covered in like these tropical exotic plants, and they're all like healthy and thriving, and it's just this amazing, beautiful, natural energy. And then like right in the center, there's like this farm to fresh, like fresh farm to table, like restaurant that's like family owned, and they're serving you like organic, you know, like all the like sustainably sourced, sustainably harvested, like local and in season food that you could possibly get. It's going to be like the best of the best. It's going to honor the earth. It's going to be delicious. It's going to nourish you. This is Taurus. With Libra, the side of Venus that you're getting is the relationship side of Venus and the glamour attractiveness of Venus. So this is what I noticed with Venus, is that, not with Venus, with Libra, is they always have a very glamorous, a very attractive energy. And they can be a little bit of like a vixen, a little bit coy, a little bit like come and play, come and get me sort of energy, right? So that's one thing that I've noticed with Libra, is that they've man or woman, like it doesn't matter what the gender of this Libra is, they are kind of like, I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful. It's a little bit like Leo. But Leo is like a big cat energy. And that cat is like, I know that you want me, but like, I'm really not that interested. I'll let you know if I'm interested. Whereas like Libra is like, I know that you want me. So if you want me, come and get me. It's a little bit more like receptive. It's a little bit more like asking you to do something to like please them or to like earn their attention, if that makes sense. Whereas Leo is like just offended if you're not paying attention. Like it's just assumed you're going to pay attention. I don't know. Anyway, that's just kind of getting into Leo energy versus Libra. But like, here's the thing that I'm going to do a whole separate video about the opposite signs and how they are compatible and not compatible. But I will say really quick about Libra and Aries is that this is a really difficult match. I haven't found a lot of Libra Aries people that get along or like each other that much. And it's because Aries has a very direct, abrasive energy, and they're very blunt and they're very honest. And in general, with Aries, there is no filter, whereas Libra has a filter. And so the energy of Mars, which rules Aries, is of cutting, and the energy of Libra, which is Venus, which is about like bringing together. And so like I feel like a lot of the Libras I know, they criticize Aries because they're rude. Like they're just rude. They're just full of themselves. They don't consider anybody but themselves in like a conversation. They just don't care about anybody else's feelings, right? But then Aries will look at Libra and be like, why aren't they just going to say like, why can't I ever get a straight answer from Libra? Like, why can't Libra ever make a decision? Because Mars is really good at making decisions. It's very aggressive, direct energy. It goes for what it wants. Boom, there it is. Like, and so they'll get frustrated with Libras, like weighing the scales, weighing the options, maybe not saying everything that's on their mind because they don't want to like offend people. So you need a balance of these energies. You need to be able to make decisions, and you need to be able to speak your truth. But Libra is like working on, both Libra and Aries are working on doing that effectively. Okay, so it's kind of like with all opposite signs, they deal with a similar issue. This is the polarity. It's like they're dealing with a similar thing, but they're approaching it from opposite ends of the spectrum. So, okay, enough about Libra for now. Okay, my friends, let's talk about Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign of friendship, the sign of groups, the sign of uniqueness, the sign of progression, the sign of the future, and the sign of society, and the sign of humanitarianism. So just like Libra, there's kind of like these complex, like big things that are all belonging to Aquarius. And one of the reasons for this is that as the signs go in order from the first month of spring to the last month of winter, which is Pisces, they become more and more complex. They kind of build on each other. So as we're going along, we are getting into more and more complex energies, if that makes sense. It's not better or worse, it's just more complicated. So with Aquarius, we've got a pretty complicated energy, and I'll explain partly why that is. One is because they have two rulers, unlike Gemini, which has one ruler, that's Mercury, and Libra has one ruler, that's Venus. Now we have Aquarius has the traditional ruler, which is Saturn, and the modern ruler, which is Uranus. What do each of these planets bring to the table? I want to back up a little bit, and I want to talk about, I have this video that I did. I don't know if I did it like really well, but I at least tried to do a video about this, where it was using the seasons. Like I went through all the seasons and I tried to use the seasons in relation to a population that lived very, very close to the earth to describe each sign. And I felt like it was so helpful. So if I find it and I still like it, I'll link it here. But basically with Aquarius, this is the sign that's in the middle of winter. And if you are in part of a people group that lives close to the earth and survives off of last year's growing season in order to live, the middle of winter is where like shit gets real, excuse my language, but like it is, because if you are on your own and say your crops don't do well that year, or like say you are just one person and there's only so much variety that you can grow for yourself, that you can do. It's like if it's just you, you're spreading yourself too thin, and maybe you're not going to have the manpower to raise a barn. You're not going to have the manpower to like preserve everything before it can go bad, even if your harvest does do well. You need other people to help you out. There needs to be a community of people in order to survive, in order to make this work. And when you get to winter, you are living off of it's been dark for a while, right? And the earth is like cold and barren and harsh. This is Saturn energy. You need the community to help you out. If you don't have other people around you, you're going to die that winter. You're not going to have anything to eat. And so with this, it creates this value system that Aquarius has, which is valuing the group more than valuing like a hierarchy. Like this person is more important than everybody else, or, you know, an unequal distribution of wealth is like very offensive to, you know, both Libra and Aquarius energy. And so there's this valuing of the group and this group belonging, because group belonging is like something that Aquarius energy understands is needed for survival through the winter. Also in the winter, what would happen with these cultures that live very close to the earth is the winter was a time for socializing, because you had to do all this work during the growing season. And now, you know, the days are short, the nights are long. You're going to be gathered around a fire. Again, air signs love fire. You're all gathered around a fire in your community, and you're swapping stories, and you're sharing information, and you're going back and forth, and you're sort of like thriving off of each other's energy and the reward of being part of a community. So this has to do with Aquarius. And Aquarius, this is what makes Aquarius the humanitarian, because Aquarius cares about the people. Most Aquarius people that I know, they have like this extreme love-hate relationship with humanity, because they see all the ways in which humanity is like harming the world or harming each other, and it tears them up. But they also want to like try and save humanity, because they actually love people so much. So this is where Saturn can help them, but also hurt them, because Saturn is a planet of boundaries and detachment, and is cold. And so what can help Aquarius, because like the other air signs, they can become overly anxious, especially since Aquarius seems to have this like driven agenda to save the world, like to save society, to save humanity. There's a hurt and a help with Saturn here, because how are you going to escape that anxiety? You can't walk around, I'm sorry, Aquarius, you can't walk around with the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're just one person. You can't save everybody. You can't save society. Like you're one person, and you know that you have to work in a team in order to achieve those things. So that's great, but you can't carry it all. And so in order to let go of it, you have to kind of detach yourself from it, right? So like the Buddhists argue that suffering is a result of attachment. And when you're attaching yourself to the situation, and when you're attaching yourself to the future, I'll talk about Uranus in a moment, because Uranus is the future. When you're attaching yourself to a specific outcome, that is what creates suffering. So there's some wisdom in detaching yourself from that, using your ruling planet of Saturn to like separate your own emotions and your own energy from whatever is your agenda in order to help humanity. Otherwise, you're just going to like run yourself to the ground. And how are you going to save the world if you're like too anxious and your mental health is so poor that like you can't get out of bed? Like you're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to do what you came here to do, Aquarius. And like, I'm here for you. You guys are like some of my favorite people in the world. So like, I always want you guys to take care of yourself, because I do see this connection with Aquarius and poor mental health when you don't practice this like non-attachment. But then sometimes, you know, Aquarius can go too extreme in the other direction and become like too aloof, too unattached, and too like distant and cold, because they're trying to find that balance of not being attached, but at the same time, they care a lot. So sometimes they'll go too far in the other direction and become like too distant and too cold and too harsh, especially if they perceive you as the problem in society. And I've seen that happen a lot as well. And, you know, you don't want to go too far on that extreme either, because like, you know, you need to work with other people in order to like solve the problems of humanity and society. And that means you're going to have to work with the people that you think are a problem. So you can't detach yourself too much from them. And also like, okay, this is coming from a Leo, but like, it's not, if you are detached from your life, then like you're not actually living. Like you're avoiding, you're disassociating, you are not actually living your life. You're not actually present. You're not actually invested. You're not actually alive. Like you need to have that fire. You need to have that enthusiasm. You need to be emotionally invested in the things that you're doing. And so you need, and you like, you guys, Aquarius, you guys know that Aquarius usually loves Leos. And I think it's because they recognize that passion and that drive and that it's, you're not alive. Like you're not really living if you're not invested, if your heart's not in it, if you're, you guys know what I'm trying to say. So that is something that I've seen with Aquarius, is like trying to find this balance of this Saturn energy. And then let's talk about Uranus. So Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius, and Uranus is the rebellious planet. It's the individual, it's the like weirdo, it's the genius, it's the flash of brilliant, it's the invention. A lot of astrologers will tell you that Uranus is like new technology, because Uranus is completely interested in the future and in what is next, like the up and coming. Uranus has absolutely no respect for tradition or what has happened in the past. Like, this is like, I'm laughing because like a lot of Aquarius that I've talked to, like this is like their pet peeve, is when they ask like, why are we doing this way? And the answer is because this is what we've always done. Stop right there. You have just lost your Aquarian audience. They're going to be a little PO'd at you, because like, no, they don't care what's been done before unless there's a logical reason to keep doing it. Like, tradition for the sake of tradition is pointless to Aquarius. Like if your tradition, if your old way of doing things is getting in the way of progress and is not serving us in the future, then like, screw it. They don't care. It has no value. It needs to be gotten rid of. It is the enemy. Okay. So that is the Uranian energy coming in, and it's like, it's so new, it's so progressive, it's so forward thinking, and it's so excited about like the future. And I love this about Aquarius because they're such progressive people, and they're so forward thinking, and they're always excited about new up and coming things that can help humanity in the future, that can change the world in positive ways. They're always thinking about these things. This is very Aquarius. Okay, so what else about Uranus? So just like Saturn kind of has like not like a pro and a con, but like an energy that can be, helpful or harmful depending on how it's applied, and the answer is always balance with this. But Uranus as well. So Uranus is an individual, and it's a rebellious energy, and something about that energy can put itself into conflict with the Aquarian need to fit in with the group, right? Because we instinctively, especially this Aquarius energy, wants to belong to a group, wants to belong to a community, wants to be surrounded by their friends. But Uranus is very unique. It's the planet of the alien. And so this can cause conflict because in order to fit in with the group, there is pressure, no matter what group it is, there is pressure to conform to the group, to look like the rest of the people in the group, so that group will accept you and recognize you as one of them. But Uranus has no interest in conformity. Uranus is different and cannot be anything other than different. So a lot of Aquarius people feel this sense that they are different than everybody else. And they'll feel like, oh, I'm a weirdo. I'm like so out there. And like, they're so much wanting to like be part of a group of people that are like them, but they always feel like they're actually different than everybody else. And they can't seem to find like people that like understand them. Like Aquarius can be like, oh, nobody understands me. And like, you know, they might hop from friend group to friend group looking for group belonging because they're looking for people to be like them and they want to fit in with people that are like them. This is challenging because I'm sorry, Aquarius, but you are unique. This is something that you can learn from Leo, which is your opposite sign, and Leo is all about the individual, right? And Aquarius, you have that as well, that individual, that uniqueness. And so Aquarius is really a lot about learning how to be a unique individual and also how to be part of a community and be part of a group. So without compromising your sense of uniqueness, because we need your uniqueness. We need it to move forward. You guys are the future. You guys have all the ideas that are going to like save humanity. You need to be you. You need to not try and be like everybody else. We need you. We need you, Aquarius. We need you to be you and to be unique. And when you learn to show that, to express that uniqueness and be okay with it and learn like, oh, it's okay for me to be like just me and I'm just like this and that's okay. And when you start to like learn and grow more confident in that, confidence is a Leo thing. When you learn to grow more confident, then other people, you'll learn that other people are going to see you for who you are and they're going to accept you exactly as you are. I mean, not everybody, but it's kind of like you don't know who's going to accept you and for who you are if you don't show people who you are, because you're not even giving them the chance. Okay, so this is Aquarius. I love you guys. I have my North Node in Aquarius, so I have so much to learn from you guys. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for Aquarius. Okay, and that wraps up the air signs. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit like, and I will try to post at the end of this video some posts for the earth signs, the fire signs, and the water signs, so you can go ahead and watch those next if you're interested. Thanks for watching.